Hey, my name is Felix and welcome to Medieval Dynasty, the game about slowly building and developing a village, and boy did I take that to heart. And when I mean slow, you pretty much have to knock down trees, cut the trees into logs, sometimes turn those logs into planks, and then build each house piece by piece. So yeah, slow is a bit of an understatement. And that's just getting one resource. Though, it does get a bit better once you start getting some villagers to do the work for you instead. Alright, so I cranked the buildings limit to 200%, which is how you get a maximum of 140 buildings. In hindsight, it was a lot more than I imagined it to be. But now, let me show you the grand tour and just talk a little bit about the city and how it progressed. Now to start off with, this is where it is on the map, centered between Piastovia and Skauki, or Skaki, however you pronounce that. It was a pretty good area, lots of flat land, which made it a whole lot easier to build. And I also wanted to make sure that the settlement started with a large body of water, just kind of makes sense. So all in all, really good area. So I haven't actually named this place yet either. Because I generally I don't really name things. It's just something I don't do as much. So if you have a cool suggestion for a name for this place, I'd love to hear it, because it would definitely beat anything I could come up with. Alright, so I'll be honest, I don't fully know where I wanted to start, because there isn't truly a main entrance to the settlement. Mostly because I wanted it to feel kind of naturally flowing, like you just enter the town at some point. So there isn't like a gated entryway or anything. So right now we're on the side that is closer to Skauki. And the reason why I decided to be on this side is I'm going to show you first the big main farm that I decided to make that pretty much has all the crops. And yeah, I wanted to go for like a big ranch. Honestly, it would have probably looked a bit better if all the crops were grown when I was recording this, but yeah, my villagers kind of, they go to work. There's a lot of farmers who work on this. So coming in, generally at the entrances, I did want to make it look like a lot of travelers would be coming in through this area. So a bit of a rest stop here where, throwing some storage and stuff. Growing hops. I think this is like one of my only few places where I have hops. Just because I didn't really think about it too much. And whenever I think of hops as well, I imagine like giant rolling hills, and didn't really have the space for that here, unfortunately. But walking up to the farm, pretty much this is where I grew all the crops. Like, I just put all the ones I thought I would need here. I mean, I am growing like everything technically in the village, but there are some things that are missing just because I didn't have the space here. So the most important ones, at least I think they're important enough, is wheat. I think there's like cabbage, carrots, and then flax and rye. Unfortunately, yes, I'm missing like oats and stuff because I didn't realize that I think like the grains, they can't grow next to each other in the same plot. And unfortunately, the way I ended up making this, yeah, I probably could have cut this in half and put all of them, but it's too late for that now. It's kind of cool actually seeing them like working right now. Look at them go. So very happy with the way the ranch progressed. I think it definitely looks apart, and it does fulfill its purpose, and it definitely provided all the necessary crops that I needed for anything, to be honest. And so on the back half of the ranch is where I put all the animal pens. I wanted the animals here to be the ones I associate most with, like barns and farms of this style. So you have like cows and pigs and stuff, and each of them have their massive pens and grazing areas. Luckily, I think whenever you place buildings as well, at some point, wild animals will stop spawning nearby, which is kind of fortunate for me because there was a massive boar hunting area here, and boars are very aggressive, and they kind of go crazy, which is also kind of funny because that is typically a problem with actual farms and ranches in real life, where you have boars like running amok and tearing down crops and stuff. So this game really is realistic. And we've got plenty of farm sheds around here. Definitely needed a lot of hands on deck to complete all these plots. So probably a majority of the villagers in town are probably farmers, especially for all of this land. And then a nice, beautiful windmill for this very, very beautiful site. Man, it looks so good. Now, we kind of get to this more forested path, and I wanted to keep it very natural back here. Also have a whole bunch of cabins for the farmers. So one of the big mechanics of this game is that the workers have to be at their workstations to begin work, but for some reason, most of them don't actually have to physically be touching their workstation, except for the farmers. I think they're one of the only ones who physically have to touch what they need to work on, which is the plots of land and throw down seeds and fertilizer and stuff. So you have to kind of keep the farmers close by to which plot you want them working on, or which shed they're like a part of. So I put a whole bunch of cabins back here for the farmers to be close by, but I also wanted to keep this area looking kind of natural and a bit more rustic because it is on the outskirts of town and we are in a forest. And then there's this like nice rock spot. I was kind of sad to find out I couldn't make a mine for it. I thought at one point when you have the access to the mine building, you would be able to bore out like a rock or something and put a mine in there. Nope, it's just a predetermined spot. So instead, this is, I guess, some sort of, I don't know, I thought about making some weird ritual spot here. It being kind of spooky. I guess it's more peaceful if anything, but maybe it's kind of spooky at night. Maybe the farmers are worshiping some weird farm ritual god over there. I don't know. We gotta start a religion in this game somehow.
You could make a religion. No, don't.
And the rest of the cabins. Now we've reached one of the many entrances to town. There's quite a bit. This is on the riverside. The good views of the river from here. So this is a cool tactic I use occasionally for building. It does kind of suck because you are wasting a build slot and you only have so much. But if you don't complete some of the buildings, this is typically a fishing hut, but I didn't build the rest of it. So now instead it makes a nice pier. If only we had fishing rods in this game, we don't. I guess you can use the fishing spear, so maybe just throw it off from here. It would be so nice and peaceful if I could actually sit here and fish with like a rod or something. And we got one of the hunting lodges here. There's 3, 2 more are dotted out in the forest where a hunting lodge, you would actually imagine a hunting lodge to be. But instead, I kind of imagine the hunting lodge that is in town right now, this one, as kind of the main headquarters for all the hunting lodges. Almost a little bit like an adventurer's guild, but they all have to communicate back to the central hub one. So this would be like the big one that all the hunters come to, and maybe hunters from out of town come into for various like hunting quests and things like that, and exterminations. And once again, a whole bunch of clutter and junk everywhere. You'll start seeing that quite a bit. It's one of my favorite things to do. I definitely throw in just a lot of random junk and clutter to make the area feel very lived in and that people are here and just throwing all their stuff around. I definitely shove a lot of it around in backyard and stuff, so for the sake of time, I probably won't show every single backyard because it's mostly the same. Definitely just a lot of clutter and random junk everywhere. Do occasionally try and also drop actual items and use a bit more than just the buildable decorations. Not too crazy though, just because I'm not too much of a fanatic at putting down actual items like cups and things. It was a bit much. So occasionally though, you'll see things like nice wheel or definitely a lot of planks. I really like using planks. Just like the pathways. Planks are very versatile. I don't think I'm gonna go into too much detail of all the homes and things. They're kind of just basic residences for all the villagers. I have decorated as much as I can for each one of them. Try to add a bit more greenery to the inside of town. So sometimes we'll have these kind of features, and I don't really know what to call this. Nice fire pit, I guess, with some arches. I try to make a circle out of it, but it's a bit harder than I thought it would come. I mean, it looks pretty good. And if you aren't looking at it too closely, then you won't notice that it's probably closer to an oval, and there's a that don't look at that. Going that way is more of all the residential area. There's a massive cluttering of residential homes. So we'll save that for a bit. I'm gonna walk over to this residence over here, and this person has a big personal garden. I think that's a goose hut. This person would be taking care of the gooses. Try to add some farmland or small gardens into town where I could. So coming up here, got more of that. There's more of that going on. Also, fit in some more farm sheds so people in town could actually be working on all the plots. And once again, just a whole bunch of more residences. So, I'm using this tactic again, where I'm not completing a build. For this one, I was kind of going for a pavilion kind of thing. A little unfortunate that you can't just like have a foundational piece or something and build something similar like this. So you kind of have to use just a house and then don't build the walls. You have to like complete the house and then rip down all the walls so you actually get the furniture and it has stuff in it. Unfortunately, yeah, because it is technically a house, we have beds here instead. I'd rather have like dining tables or something. At least we have this cooking pot here, and that fits into the pavilion idea. As we go over here, we've got one of the main taverns. There are 2 total taverns in the city, and this one I think serves more of the residents on the outer edges of town, and it's kind of on the lower end compared to a tavern inside of the city. A whole bunch of picnic-style dining tables, and then the kitchen and the storage for all the food. I'm kind of just like keeping on the edge of town right now. I guess I can kind of complete the back half of this pathway, one of the primary highways. This is the other hunting lodge I was talking about earlier, a bit more in the forest and in the wilderness on the outskirts. This place also used to be a big bear spot. I don't think I've seen any bears, fortunately for us, because I'd rather not have a bear running into town and attacking all my villagers, if I'm honest. The only other building I have along this pathway here, as we kind of traverse back, is actually where my main residence would be, and I wanted one of those cool S-way paths going up the hill. It looks really, really good, but it was such a headache to build. First, I'm kind of a stickler, and I wanted the pathway to make sure it's not too steep. Unfortunately, there's some parts that are a little awkward, because I'd want to imagine like walking up this, like how tiring it would be. And I wanted to try and get the pathway to somewhat even out a bit. So fortunately, it still couldn't really do it, because there's still some very steep parts to it. The next thing is the walls. Oh boy. Building fences and walls and trying to get them perfectly rounded out and curvy is just, took some time. Way longer than I wanted to spend on a pathway. I don't think I'd make this again. This one looks super good. I'm glad it turned out so well, but geez, it was a bit of a problem making it though. And then along here we've got all the way up the top of the hill, kind of a cool lookout vantage point that you can see the entire valley from here. And I just realized you can actually see the Piestovia from here. Because of how big the my settlement ended up becoming, I don't know, I feel like, suck it, Piestovia, I'm bigger. You're not the main capital anymore. I am. Honestly, because of their large walls, Piestovia mostly just looks like a fort that kind of is centered nearby to protect this one. At least that's my headcanon now. It's just a fort city over there. Very nice sitting area. That's my home, and not much going on with it. I did keep the insulation off of it, just because I do think the natural stone, looks really, really good. We find ourselves back inside of town, and now I'm going to kind of complete this middle portion here. This was one of my favorite builds. So this is the lumber yard, and it was where the village really got its start. This is where I got all my wooden logs, and especially in the early game, you need a lot of logs and wood. And so this has been here since the beginning, and it's just slowly built out and became more detailed, and the whole village just slowly formed around it and kind of branched off from it. So it always holds a special place in my heart, the lumberyards. Also, I think this is one of this person here, their name is like Dalewin or something, one of the longest villagers I've had in this place, and has been the primary lumberer, the first ever lumberer since the start. Here's a big resource storage yard, huge area for all the villagers to have mass storage for everything in the village. connected to the resource storage hut. And this is kind of a cool idea that I've seen. You can use the wooden plank fence as kind of like walls, and then you can throw normal planks on top as a roof. It makes a nice shed. And then you can actually throw things inside of the shed. So just some more small additive build things that you can use to decorate the place a bit. Now heading down to where I said a large majority of all the residential housing is going to be. And one of the main things I wanted to focus on when I put down all the residential houses is trying to keep everything kind of not like a giant grid or boxes. Like, you want an old-timey village where there's no organization. People are just kind of putting their houses wherever. And I wanted to make it feel like a maze and that you can kind of get lost in it. And it's like all the houses are just smashed together and there's just fences and things everywhere, and it's just kind of a mess, but it's a fun mess and it organized chaos within everything. So as we come down, first thing we run across is, I guess, more of a local blacksmith making tools and whatever else for everybody in the residence, and there are all sorts of things thrown about. Also a nice sitting area, and once again, man, it'd be so good to have a fishing rod. Imagine if I could just sit here and fish on this pier. Unless I'm like, I don't know, maybe there's a fishing rod, I just don't know, but I don't think there is. And we'll come down. Now first, this is a big gathering hub right here. Big, nice, large kind of circle. See, this circle turned out a bit. It's like whenever you're told to draw a circle in art class or something, and you're like, yeah, I can do it, but you do it with nothing to help you, and it's just like, ooh, that's just eyeing a circle and hand drawing it. Typically doesn't go so well. I'm just gonna walk around a bit, and yeah, there's more stuff thrown about. Doing that shed idea again, really like that one. Somewhat of a tip that I kind of used a lot whenever I was building a lot of these places is to mix and match a lot of my fences. So trying to not use just one type of wall or fence. You can kind of see there's a lot of different ones, and I feel like a lot of the fences do have somewhat different purposes. See all the plants have grown in and all the decorations. So I don't really know what's the best way to kind of I'm just gonna walk through, and I don't know, we can just kind of spot things as we go, because the residential area, as I said, is just a maze. So there's not really one direction I can really just like go into, as they all kind of wrap back around. Like, oh, this is a really nice alleyway though. I also really wanted these kind of claustrophobic alleyways, like very tight and honestly kind of spooky at night. Don't know what you're gonna walk into. I'll try my best to show you most of the houses and the alleyways in here, but it's my organized, like, purposely distasteful mess, where it's on purpose kind of a mess, but it does make sense, and it does wrap back to that other path, so you can get in here. There are just so many small nooks and crannies and entranceways. I love it. Like, I'm really happy with how this whole area, this big residential kind of smattering of things, turned out. And then we've also got a beekeeper. Also, the beekeeper is kind of creepy. You've ever seen their outfit? Like, what is...
Why? Rhymes with stripe. A coincidence?
Man, be quiet.
I don't think so.
I'm trying to look at your freaky face. It's like they're wearing a net. I can't, look at, that's like some SCP level stuff right there. I'm just saying, that right there. This is creepy. We're getting plenty of honey back here. Also, more just things. Another kind of shed idea. Fences and privies. And then you kind of sneak your way back through, and I don't know, I'm just walking through it all now. Trying my best to show you, but everything is just kind of everywhere. But that's cool. Occasionally I do have some more sitting areas, just nice places for the villagers to hang out, kind of relax after work. And I don't know how they do it, or what their pathing is, or how they decide, but it is cool to see the villagers like walk around, use most of the chairs and workstations that you can put around as decorations. And so far, the pathing I haven't noticed any bad pathing from the villagers. They seem to get around the village like pretty nicely. Okay, so most of all of the alleyways, they kind of lead back, and there's a couple of entrance ways, so I'm gonna run over there and now I can kind of show you. But this is the main avenue for the city, and it looks so good. And if you want to use this kind of idea, I love this. It's a bit easier than using farmland and then putting flowers there as kind of to make flower boxes. Instead, I just use, I think these are just like the stone flower box. You can put a whole bunch of them, and you just surround it with a low plank fence. You get a much easier to manage flower box, and then you can also like wrap it around. It's not exactly bent on you having to have like a massive space. So, and then you can also like mix and match all the different kind of flowers in here. And as an avenue, got a whole bunch of wagons and everything, and imagine just a load of foot traffic comes through here, area to sit down in, and some more storage and whatever that thing is. I actually don't really know what it is. It just looks kind of cool. I think it's like I assume birds go in there, but I don't actually know. And then as you can see, there's all sorts of entrance ways back into the residential area. It all kind of hooks up and connects. And we've got a bit more residential area. See, now this is my actual organized, the nice neighborhood, and where the higher up kind of houses are, well, the actual houses, because those are all over there, like simple houses. So there's this huge distinction between the two residential areas where you have the actually nice, organized, and higher end neighborhood, and then I wouldn't want to say slums, but it is definitely just a mishmash of buildings all put together and everyone just kind of vying for space in there. And I love the contrast between the two. And once again, I'm using that idea of kind of mix and matching your fencing, so you can kind of like create different kind of fences. It adds a bit of contrast. And one of my favorites is doing the stone wall and like a picket fence behind it. It'd be kind of like if you had just a much higher like stone wall bottom as a base, and then a fencing on top. Kind of wish we had that. Like, we have an iron fence, but it's just like, it's very short. And if you had like an iron wrought fence or something, that would be cool. At some point, I felt like my tour was a bit more organized, but now I just, yeah, because of how unorganized it's meant to be, I'm just kind of walking through the area now. Now this is a neat area. Here is where I've got some markets. This is pretty much like an alleyway, like a market alleyway, focused on having, because you will notice that I don't have like, I think I'm missing like two types of merchants, but I do have a couple other merchant areas. So I wanted this one to be things that you would find inside of a city. So like tools and clothing and things, maybe food, and then having, I think there's like a resources or something, and other like crops and things, but I have other markets for those. And keeping that idea that the merchants are here, and I'd imagine a lot of business or a lot of people would be kind of coming through the center of town. This is where a couple of businesses pop up, and it somewhat becomes a business district with some services. So here you got the seamstress, be able to produce all the sorts of clothes that we need for the city. And then on the other side of the seamstress is what I think is kind of like the upper tavern, the one that probably gets the most business and serves like all sorts of customers and everything. And then I love keeping similar ideas together, so it's obviously easier just to know where the food stuff is. So kitchen and food storage right next to it, as well as, yeah, I kind of went ham on all the bundles of Zach's back here. I think it would make sense. Got to keep up a lot of food and drinks and stuff, so a lot of ingredients probably being stored back here. We got in storage. And then on the other side of that is a very lovely outdoor seating area. And I've got all the kind of cloths and stuff, as I imagine. This tavern definitely makes more money than the other one. And then I guess we'll go to the left side. Someone can also go right. Make it back there eventually. But on this side, do have the herbalist as well. So conveniently close by to the tavern as well, I guess, if they need herbs. And we've got lots of greenery, nice gardens back here, and plenty of pots and flowers for the herbalist. And like using these baskets kind of everywhere. I think one of my favorite things, like right here, is you can actually stack the baskets inside of each other, which is pretty neat. We've now come to the edge of town, and you will notice that I like to keep it whenever we get outside of town. It starts to open up a lot more, and you kind of get that feeling we are on the edge of town, so the buildings are a lot more countryside. And this is, again, one of the default pathways in the game, and I just like having the village kind of form around it. Plus, you get the cool bridge and everything that is a landmark to build around in the game. Head across the bridge, and this is where I have the stables, just much further outside of town. I don't know, I kind of get like Skyrim vibes out here. But we've got a horse stable, and the person who lives here takes care of the horses and has a farm and has a barn and everything. And the stable itself, big grazing area for them. It's actually just my horse. I haven't purchased any other horses but mine. Mine gets all the VIP treatment. This guy only is here to live, to take care of my horse and my horse only. And then another hunting cabin outside, more in the wilderness now that we're pretty much fully outside of the city. And one interesting thing I saw when I was running up to the hunting cabin is I placed a trap here earlier as like part of the decorations, and I actually caught something, which I thought was I've never used traps up to this point for some reason. And well, you know what? It kind of adds to the decorations of this place, so we'll just keep that there. That bunny's just sleeping. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's in a cage, and we feed it. We take care of it. We've also got a ruin here. Unfortunately, I did not know when I was building this that you wouldn't be able to like do anything with it or remove it. So it's just kind of here. You also can't build like next to it or anything. There's a restricted zone around it. So it kind of just sits here. I guess it's kind of a cool landmark. There's a dilapidated house that's, all abandoned and kind of been lost to time. So I guess it adds a little bit more life to the village. And then coming through here, so when I was talking about earlier about having other types of markets, I have included a different type of market here. And this one, in my head, is a farmer's market right outside next to the orchard and everything. And then probably the farmers from the big, massive ranch come here as well. And so this is where we'd actually be selling a majority of like crops and food, herbs, things like that, resources. We've got some tools. We're more or less selling everything here. This is like our major market. And then I've got another pavilion here. I like using these. So I skipped out earlier because I started going like on the residential side in the middle, the back corner here. We've got actually the secondary farm where I'm now growing, I think like oats. It's pretty much anything I was missing earlier from the big ranch. I decided let's grow a bit here. I think it's mostly just oats because that's the big thing I was missing. And there's also just a nice secondary farm because we'd have some smaller ones. Like you have the main big family that owns a big ranch, and then a smaller family that owns much tinier farm. And this is one of my favorite things I've built. I think it came out really well, better than I thought it would in my head. I wanted some sort of graveyard, and there really isn't any kind of graveyardy things to use. So trying to use a lot of iron fences because typically associated with like cemeteries, and I try to make some coffins or at least some what would look like a hole in the ground using the low plank fence again. This one I actually try to make a shape of a coffin, like the kind of diamond shaped one. I think it works. It's pretty alright. Using some torches as headstones. If you have any suggestions for like, I don't know if there's anything else you could really use for a headstone, but I just went with torches. I think they look neat. And then there's like more of a rock pile kind of version over here. And then over here, this is like my favorite one because I actually kind of went crazy on actually decorating it, like throwing some planks on, looking like we're trying to close it up. We've got some like shovels in the ground and then an actual shovel, and then just keeping that idea, and got some old wagons probably like dropping off the body. I'm using our herbalist hut for this. I think it would also make sense, like they would be using herbs to probably like treat the body and stuff. Plus, it looks really nice, so I think the graveyard came out really nice. And then we can actually walk back into town. There's a couple ways in, some pathways, and I needed another working district. So I have a whole bunch of resource storages out here. There's another blacksmith because I really needed them to be making tools and everything. So we really need some extra blacksmiths and another workshop. I did try to make another kind of hut, and this time I'm using log fences and then logs on top. So it kind of is a much bigger shed, one where they could actually sit down in and probably be working on tools and whatnot. And then we got some bins for storing things. I threw a whole bunch of copper in there, then kind of got lazy and didn't want to. Yeah, when I put them all down before, they like blew up and there was copper everywhere. I kept finding copper in places where copper probably shouldn't have been. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I kind of don't want to do that again for like iron or tin or something. And then because of the proximity of it, I am the working district reconnect up to the tavern because I'd imagine the workers are right after work. Yeah, like that, just relaxing and just getting a nice drink after work. I accidentally passed this stop earlier, but next to the large farmers market is another blacksmith. This one is a lot more accessible for anyone not in the city, and I absolutely needed another blacksmith because we just go through tools like crazy in this city. There are just so many jobs, so another blacksmith never hurts. Coming back towards the stable, and now we're on the coast. Going to see a lot of the fisheries and docks and things. So with that, I have another dedicated market. Got the fish market here, a dock as well. I would be selling fish and tools and stuff here, except I don't really have that much fish. The fishing people, they're pretty slow, or at least mine are. I haven't been very successful with them. And we've also got some alleyways that you can kind of duck into. Just a whole bunch of ways in between all the buildings. I really like this inner city tight claustrophobic feeling we can run through, which then connects back to the main street, and then we'll run back over this way. So not much else is really going on. I've got a lot more residential places, another cool kind of alleyway neighborhood here, and I mean, look at that, like the view to the river, that's cool. And then in between these neighborhoods, I wanted a community kind of backyard so everyone can gather and has access to the space behind their houses. And so a lot of the villagers will be mingling back here and then kind of wrap back to the residential. So now we're on this side next to the river. This is such a nice pathway, just a cool walkway. I mean, get to see it at night as well with all the lanterns on, the river shining. This game is seriously like really pretty, very atmospheric. And so got more of the residences. And what I created was just a big kind of block here. Now that we are like very much deeper into the city, I did start doing a couple of blocks. Okay, don't mind that it's all of a sudden morning. My person needed to sleep. But we come along here and we've got the coastline all decorated up as well. Mostly just fishing out here, probably catching a lot of things from the river. And I have lots of nets and things for the fish. It'd be cool if you could actually like catch a fish and then hang it from these nets. It would just add so much to them to actually see like live fish that were caught, hanging from. But we have all of our main fishing huts down here. Plenty of just areas to sit around and, supplies on the coast. I wanted to keep this as somewhat of a landmark. So this is like the only house in this village that is still made out of sticks and straw. And it's because this is the first ever house that I built on this playthrough, and it's been here forever. It was originally my house, and very first one I decided to build out here before I decided to start expanding from somewhere else. But this house has stood the test of time forever. It has been here the entirety of the village's development, so kind of stands here as like a landmark of this is where it all began. We got a big courtyard surrounding it. And the last thing to show you is my final residential square. Not finishing another building, but this time this one's under construction. So I left a whole bunch of planks and like some logs thrown about, lots of supplies as construction is happening on this house. With that, I think I've shown you pretty much everything in the village. This definitely took a bit of its toll on my sanity is there were some very long and annoying moments here and there, but overall, I enjoyed my time, and it is always fun being able to actually build a village, and then this game is based entirely around that mechanic of building a village, so I absolutely love that. So if you have made it this far, I seriously thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed hearing all my random ramblings and my unnecessary building. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, I hope you consider dropping a like and subscribing. Definitely helps me out, and you will get to see a bit more building videos like these. I like to build unnecessary stuff in all sorts of games. My name is Felix. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope to catch you again next time. Bye!